Alright, this is video log 2 of Sergeant Charles Dyer, going over the illegal kidnapping of my girlfriend's daughter and the comments of CPS against the Constitution. Now, in the last one, I talked about our court hearing on October 13th, the evidence that we had, the evidence that the state had against us, which was nothing whatsoever. And then their attempt at, or their threatening of us to take my girlfriend's daughter from us. Now, when we walked out of the courtroom on the 13th, I was supposed to never see her daughter again. Ever. Never. Not even to say goodbye. Now, here's what I wrote on a few different websites. It was just sort of a little story over what happened. I'm just going to read it word for word as it was written that day. I sat for 4 hours alone tonight with tears streaming down my face. During this time, there must have been 1,000 questions that ran through my head. The main one, how can the government take our children without due process? How can they destroy a family without hearing both sides of a story? Refusing even to hear both sides of the story. Now, you may be wondering how I could have such strong feelings about the family in New Hampshire. Now, this was the time around the Jonathan Irish case in New Hampshire. But the truth is, this isn't about them. This is a story about my family. I had court today against the Child Protective Services. It was supposed to be a cut and dry case, and here's the backstory. Now, I just went in and I talked about the child molestation case against me. The evidence that was against me was the allegations itself. How I started a relationship with Amanda, and how Amanda and her daughter were my life. And now I say, those two girls are the best things that ever happened to me. She, speaking about Amanda, is a patriot and fully awake. Her daughter asks when Mommy and I are getting married so that we can be a family. I explained to her that we are a family. Not having a government document doesn't lessen our familial bond. But again, I am proven wrong by the government. I try not to cry as I'm thinking about this next sentence. Tonight, I got on my knees beside the bed with my daughter and said the last bedtime prayer that I ever will with her, and kissed her on the forehead for the last time. She has no idea that tonight was the last time that she'll see me. All I can do now is sit and cry with her mother, as a tyrannical government has now stolen my family from me because of my refusal to back down or shut up. The CPS case. Because there were allegations of child sexual abuse made against me, and because I live with a child in my home, CPS stepped in back in April and told me that I could never be alone with the child. I gladly cooperated, wanting no trouble with the agency after the horror stories that I have heard. We decided to allow my daughter to stay, and this we're talking about her child. She calls me daddy. I refer to her as my daughter. We decided to allow my daughter to stay with my parents at night, which she adamantly refers to as her grandma and grandpa. CPS came to my home on several occasions. And one time, I told them they could not enter my home without some type of paperwork. The deputy said that you don't have a choice, and they opened the door and forced their way in. And of course I had no way to defend myself at that time. They informed me that they were going to take her daughter if she continued to allow her to associate with me. I explained to the worker that this is because of false allegations and I will be found not guilty at my trial. She sternly informed me that it didn't matter if I was found not guilty. They didn't have to uphold the same level of evidence as a criminal court. All they have to do is have belief that harm may come to the child at some time in the future. Harm may come to the child at some time in the future. Do you realize the ramifications of that? Every child may have harm come to them in the future. And if they may, they will take your child, or they have the ability to. And as far as she and CPS were concerned, I was a child molester, and even if I get found not guilty, that changes nothing, because once CPS has you down as having a history, it doesn't go away. And even if I move to another state, they will contact the CPS in that state and report that I'm a child molester. Next, they told us that in order to keep from having the court involvement, all I had to do was take a sexual predator class where I would be forced to admit that I'm a sexual molester child molester and have to go through therapy to correct the condition. And I talk a little bit about the 2 reasons that they're trying to take her, and the interview with the child, how nothing showed that there was any evidence against me whatsoever. And then this brings us to court today, the court hearing, or lack thereof. After months of researching Oklahoma state laws and family court cases, case laws outlining what they can and cannot take your child for, we showed up this morning, quite positive that we would win this case. Not to mention, we showed up with a videotape of my wife admitting to drug use, adultery, and willingness to commit perjury to win our custody dispute, and an audio tape of the CPS worker saying there was no imminent threat to the child. We were ready to go to war. My girlfriend went into the courtroom with our court-appointed attorney, and the attorneys placed our case paperwork all over the table and was ready to fight. The DA called the attorney out of the courtroom. She came back and informed my girlfriend that the judge was going to rule that I have no contact with her daughter whatsoever. My girlfriend argued with the attorney and asked how they could do this without seeing our evidence, and that this wasn't right. The attorney said that she needed to sign paperwork agreeing not to allow me to see her daughter, and she would take non-offender sex abuse classes and therapy. If she refused and made the judge do a hearing at all, that he would adjudicate her child as deprived, at which time the child can be taken as a ward of the state. She argued with her attorney and the DA about the situation, that it wasn't right, it wasn't fair that the judge would rule before ever even hearing her evidence. How could the judge not care? That is his job. After a lengthy argument, she requested to speak with me in the hallway. Once I found out about the situation, I was floored with the same question. While speaking to the attorney, a man motioned to our attorney to come to him. He spoke in a low tone, saying that if her client refused to sign, that the child would be adjudicated deprived. And then I just talk about how the judge and I sort of got into it. I was about 15 feet away from the guy, and we got into it there. And we were appalled and confused about what was going on. There is no longer a presumption of innocence in this country. A lot of you already know that. We knew at this point that the judge had no care about what we had to say or the people's rights that he is charged with protecting. He was bought and paid for by someone with much more power than we have. My girlfriend agreed to sign the document and went back into the courtroom. The attorney went to the back with the judge once again, and when she came back, she informed my girlfriend that now, because of the altercation that we had, the judge wants the Dyers completely out of it, and they can have no contact with her daughter. That means that my mother, a nurse of 68 years of age with a perfect record, and my father, a preacher of 73 years of age with a perfect record, minus a speeding ticket in the 80s, are no longer allowed to be around a child that they refer to as their grandchild. Now, I don't know what they did. They didn't sexually molest anyone either. I'm not sure exactly. They're not even being charged with anything, so I don't know why they couldn't see them. Anyway, they let me stay there then, so I didn't have to get kicked out of the house here and live on the streets. My afterthought, my girlfriend has cried almost constantly for the last 11 hours. She looked up at me today with watery eyes and pain in her heart as I embraced her, and she asked me, what do we do? How do we fight against this? How can we keep them from doing this to us? I pulled her close to me so she could not see the tears that were welling up in my eyes, because I knew the only answer that I could give her was one that I couldn't bear for her to see. My heart is broken. My will to continue fighting the legal process with petitions and the use of law a flickering flame, all but extinguished by mistreatment, lies, threats, stripping of rights, multiple false statements, and continual constitutional violations. To what length is a normal American expected to continue to use the legal system? Is it after their rights have been stripped, their homes invaded, their families destroyed, their children stolen, and the legal system refuses to even make a simple attempt at defending a person's rights? Please ask yourself that after you finish reading this. At what point would you stand up and say, no more? And I will continue on the next video.